Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Greg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase, and I'm bringing back I can't say my favorite guest, but I can say one of my favorite guests. And Mike Burns, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Well, you can at least say it's your mom's favorite guest, other than you.
Yes, it's my mother's favorite guest. Okay, and you've been on more than anybody else, and I appreciate it. And we're going to talk about our favorite topic, 3M, which settled, and now a lot of us in the mass tort world are coming to understand what settling means. And it's not like your regular case where you settle it, you know what you're getting, you get a check in a couple months, you sign some paperwork and be done. Anyway, Mike, explain to everybody where we're at in the process and where we're going.
Sounds great, Greg. And thanks for having me on again, this time on Cut to the Chase. One of the things that you've seen, Greg, is we settled the case back in August of last year, August 28th of last year. And so we're just over 12 months out. And what's happened is you're seeing clients getting paid all across the 3M scope out there, our landscape. And what you're going to see in the next 7 months is you're going to see that half of the clients, or half of the dollars are going to have paid out. A little over $3.1 billion will have been paid out by April 15th of 2025. We have another payment that's coming out on October the 15th. That's $25 million. And then we have two really large payments that are coming out. The second payment will come out on January 15th of 2025. That'll be $875 million. And then the next payment after that will be on tax day, April 15th of 2025, and that will be $600 million. And you know, Greg, that you can speak and talk to most of your tax attorneys. They'll let you know that these are personal injury settlements, which are usually non-taxable settlements. So that's a good news for our clients and our service members across the country that served our country and served our nation and utilized these 3M earplugs. So like you said, it takes a little bit of time, but things are going well. If you look at that, that'll probably put us out about 18 months of when we signed the settlement back in August of 2024 and to August of 2023. And then you go forward, and half of the money will have been paid out by April 15th of 2025.
All right. So I guess, these numbers sound like all exciting. The reality is these are going to get parsed out to all the individuals that were in the lawsuit to the extent that they selected the expedited review. Or
that's correct, Greg. So that's what you're going to see is this group is the expedited payment program, and they should be paid out. All of the expedited payment programs should be paid out by January 15th of 2025. The next group that you're going to see, and you could, if you've been tracking the litigation like I did, you'll see that what's going out right now is the special master is making his awards for the extraordinary injury fund. So the extraordinary injury fund is another amount on top of whatever the original settlement amount that your client may have settled his case for or her case for. Now, what you're seeing there, Greg, is that those payments will likely start sometime around April 15th of 2025, okay? And then at the same time, what you're going to start to see in January 15th of 2025 is the deferred payment process. And those are people that selected, hey, I want to go ahead and have the special master review my injuries. And then a point system was allocated to the injuries. And based upon that point system, they will get X amount of dollars, or their award would be X amount of dollars. In the last couple of days, I've seen that the special master has been updating the files. I've seen it on the Brown Greer website and the Brown Greer emails that are going out, that the special master has been making the allocations on the extraordinary injury fund. And that fund, if you go back and look at the whole scope of how many soldiers are involved in this, a little over 240,000 soldiers was the end number when you went down to how many actually accepted the settlement and participated in the settlement. About between 5 and 10%, 10% being on the high side, meaning about 24,000 soldiers are eligible for the extraordinary injury fund. On the high side, on the low side, about 12,000 soldiers are in that extraordinary injury fund.
All right. So some of these so all the clients, the soldiers, had an opportunity to select the early payment or the deferred payment, where the special master would do a little bit more of an analysis. So
Correct.
anybody that's listening to this, if you've been in touch with your lawyers and done what you were supposed to, either you did the early payment or you're going to have the deferred payment. So you're telling me that the special master has actually started to assign points and values to some of the people that are in the deferred payment EIF, the extraordinary injury fund.
Both of those categories. Now, you won't start seeing payment on either the deferred payment. Those payments will start in January of 25, and as well as the EIF, those that have been awarded a extraordinary injury amount, those will also begin sometime in 2025. They could start as early as April 15th of 2025.
All right. If you selected the early payment, and you've gotten paid, is that it? It's done. There's no more payments. There's no more. You
Not
can't.
necessarily. Not necessarily. So some of the clients that selected expedited payment, and these are the only ones that would not, by rule, be eligible for the extraordinary injury. The extraordinary injury, you had to fall into one of 6 categories. And so your lawyer would have reviewed your claim to see whether or not you fell into one of those 6 categories that would have made you possibly eligible for the extraordinary injury fund. The only clients by rule that are not included in the extraordinary injury fund by rule is the ones that accepted the settlement of $5,000 for recorded tinnitus only. So those people claimed that they had tinnitus, but they didn't provide any records. They didn't provide any proof that they had tinnitus. So they were awarded that $5,000 amount. Because of that, they're not eligible for any additional awards because they don't have any medical records that substantiate their claim for extraordinary injury.
All right. So you had to make a selection to get in the EIF fund.
Correct.
Even if you did get the early payment, you could still qualify for the EIF.
Correct.
All right.
The only ones that don't qualify for the EIF by rule are the ones that got the $5,000 award for recorded tinnitus only.
Okay.
So they were eliminated right off the bat.
And so the deferred payment means that you may be in part of the EIF, or
you could be. And so what would have happened is your law firm would have been in touch with you and would have submitted your records for your EIF. And I believe I'm going to be wrong on the date, Greg, so I don't want to do, but I want to say that date was sometime in July. I want to say it was in the latter part of July. It may have been July the 25th. Sometimes I get dates in my head, and unfortunately, I don't recall the exact date on that, but your law firm, it could have been June the 25th. So that's why it was either June the 25th or July the 25th, but you had to make that application for the extraordinary injury fund at that time. And you would have known that you were doing it because your lawyer would have been in contact with you and working you through, put you in one of the 6 categories for extraordinary injury fund. And like I said, On the maximum side, only about 10% of the soldiers would qualify for the extraordinary injury fund. Thus the word extraordinary. It's not for everybody. It's for people that had more of an injury.
Okay, so if you selected the deferred payment, that means you're gonna get paid more, but you're getting paid later. And you're
That's
not
correct.
necessarily in the EIF. So when did
That's
the
correct.
deferred, the people that paid, that elected to get the deferred payment, when do they get paid?
They
Is it-
should start seeing payment on April 15th of 2025.
Okay, all right, so you gave me 3 dates. You gave me October 25 million. So that means the defendant, 3M, and whoever else, insurance companies, are ponying up 25 million, which will go to the people that selected the early payment and have not gotten paid yet. I mean, this is kind of like whoever was first in line on the early payment gets paid first, right?
So
And
that's correct, Greg. The people that returned their paperwork first, they were in the first batch of payments, along with the bellwether plaintiffs, the ones that went to trial, and because they were the ones that helped, set the bar, and then the wave cases, the cases that were getting worked up and ready to go to trial. Those are in the first groups of payment. Those are who it is. That's who got paid on the first batch of money.
okay, so if you're a client in this case and you know that you did the early payment, you haven't gotten paid, it's because you're waiting, and basically you're waiting in line. And there's 3 critical dates that you need to reach out to your lawyer and ask about. The October 25th, where 3M, they're putting money in an account that then
Correct.
distributed to the people, the ones that are next in line. That's
correct.
October, that's 25 million. January of 2025 is 875 million, and April
Correct.
2025 is 600 million.
Correct.
And that
And-
April
and
date
we-
also coincides, that April 2025 coincides when the first deferred payments are going to be made.
That's correct, Greg. That's correct.
All right. And then the EIF, when would that first start to kick in?
They're going to start kicking in about the same time, the April 2025.
Okay, all right. So April 2025 sounds like if you haven't gotten paid by then, you need to get on the phone with your lawyer and ask your lawyer what's up.
Yeah, and Greg, people will be getting paid as well. Some will get me paid earlier because there's going to be a big deposit on January the 15th of 2025, $875 million. So there's going to be a lot of payments. And what happens is your law firm, you should reach back out to your law firm, because once these deposits are made and you're in that particular pay group, so there'll be a pay group for October 15th, a pay group for January 15th, and a pay group for April the 15th. Once that money's deposited in that account and you're in that particular pay group, you should see your funds within 30 to 60 days from that particular date, sometimes even quicker. Because what's happening is they run the lien reports. If there's any lien reports against your case or anything like that, that's what they're doing. If you have a bankruptcy or anything like that, that's what they're doing to run those reports, to make sure that you have no creditor that would have a right to your settlement funds, that person is paid, so that you're not stuck having to pay that person after the fact. So, and to see whether or not that actually applies.
All right, I'm going to throw one curveball in here for you. All right.
That's okay.
I know your Knowles are suffering and my Canes for the moment. We're all happy in Cane land. But the rumor that I saw was Deion Sanders maybe steps in to the head coach. What's your take? I mean, would you think the Seminoles should look for Deion Sanders running the program?
Well, Greg, I appreciate that question, but I'm going to answer another question. I think the guys at the University of Florida might have to look out and see whether or not Billy Sunbelt might be taking his show on the road. And if not Danny Werfel, but Tim Tebow steps in to become the new head football coach at the University of Florida. So, and since your Canes have already taken out the University of Florida, I think the Gators need to think about that a lot more before we need to worry about the Seminoles.
All right. Well, listen, I'm going to end it on that. I can't really top that. That's beyond my pay grade. All right. Thanks, Mike Burns, for coming on and sharing the update. I know a lot of people are anxious. The case settled. Where's my money? Okay, I'm hoping that this helps everybody get some information. And that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Mike, again, thank you very much. And when you come down to the Orange Bowl, I need at least 3 days notice.
Okay, my friend. You take
All
care,
right.
Greg. See
All
you, buddy.
righty.
Bye-bye.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.